NBA YoungBoy regrets his violent lyrics and says he's going to convert into Mormon. How do I say that?
Mormonism.
Thank you, Mormonism.
He just wants concubines.
Or
they don't do that anymore.
I know you're on house. I think house arrest in Utah.
There's a whole TV show about.
No, we're not talking about Warren Jeffs. We talk.
Jay Moore.
Yes.
Now, usually we want the younger generation to have self-awareness, try to make changes if they can. It's good to see growth. Fair?
Fair. No, very much so.
Okay. So when you saw this headline about him actually in an interview sounding like he was very remorseful for his lyrics, and he talks about who knows how many kids have been riding around in the car listening to my music, what type of things they may have done based off my influence. What do you think about this, man? Like, what's the first thing that comes to your mind when NBA YoungBoy says this is his new path since he's been out in Utah? Honest opinion.
Good for him.
Okay.
Good for, you know what? There are so many people like. I don't know how old this kid is.
He can't be more than.
He's a young boy.
Yeah, well, that too.
I like that. I like that.
You know, but sometimes
He's not an
there are people
boy,
that they don't get it until they're like my age, like
yeah,
and then they'd be like, maybe I shouldn't have done all that. And,
yeah,
and they're not at the top of their game. Like whether you're aware of, you know, if you're aware of it, NBA YoungBoy and the numbers he does with the content that he makes, you know, this is somebody who definitely should have been. At an industry, who should have been an industry man, but he probably can't go because of the law.
Bam's influence is huge.
You know, but then again, once again, I go back to an argument that I had, not really an argument, but just a statement I made several episodes ago, is that the streets, when you try to tell them and give them some advice, they don't care. Like, NBA YoungBoy could have, it's not going to change anybody's life because they'd be like, good for NBA YoungBoy. I'm still going to get out here and sell dope and carry guns illegal and do what I got to do.
Hold on. So you don't think based off, I'm just taking into consideration this kid being one of the biggest artists in the world, his impact and his influence. You don't think there are, I'm not saying in abundance, I'm saying you don't think this might have enough impact on someone to possibly point them in a different direction?
Maybe one or two, but I just think
one or two.
I think the majority of people who, you know, they'll move on to somebody else negative. If NBA, you know,
you might be right.
It's kind of like
maybe that's wishful thinking.
It's kind of like when you talk about the dope game. You know, if you look, I'm gonna sell this crack because if I don't sell it to them, they're gonna get it from somebody else. So
we've heard that logic.
I mean, once again, good for him as an individual. I don't think it'll have this widespread effect on the culture and the people who drive his YouTube numbers up. I don't think they're going to care. It's not like they're going to be like, let me look more into this Mormonism.
There's Mormon people that have been visiting him. I'm reading from the article. He said it makes his heart be in the right place when he has the visitors to come over and people talking. He's starting to read and do research.
I used to not want black people to be Mormons.
Yeah.
This is true. This is true. It's kind of
got me there.
You know,
you got me there.
Do your research.
Yeah, there's some interesting history behind that, but
that's for another day. What you think on face value though, Terry, when you see this from NBA YoungBoy?
I mean, it's good for him as far as growth is concerned.
Agreed.
I agree with Jay Moore as far as his impact is already. The ripple is already done. It's done. You know what I'm saying? So anybody that was going to be influenced by him are already influenced.
Too late.
And it's there now.
Okay.
So he can't go back and take back everything that he released. It's already been released.
It's like, oh, now you want to be a Mormon? Yeah. I'm already in jail.
Yeah, it's too late for all that.
So now you're saying it's what he does from here now moving forward, and just lead the rest of. I guess because what you're saying essentially is the damage has been done.
Damage has been done. I mean, I'm all about self-improvement and working towards yourself.
Right.
If he gets right with whoever his higher power might be, I'm all for it, man. But unfortunately, he may. I guess they say if you save one, you've saved enough. He might save one. Who knows?
I think it's possible.
It's possible. Yeah, I ain't gonna just take that away from him and say that it's not going to affect anybody else positively. Yeah. Because honestly, if he's feeling like that, I kind of sense that some of these other young cats are feeling like that too, because the way that they're living and it's almost like you're in a trance.
There are a lot of young people who are looking for some direction. So.
Exactly, looking for direction. And if you're listening to this, you have to realize this is what's in their headphones 99% of the time. So when you see them out in public, they're listening to this stuff. So it's essentially zombifying them to a point where they need to snap out of it anyway. And I'm not saying that that's all young kids, but there's a good majority of them that live like that. So I ain't gonna take anything away from it. I think it's actually pretty cool that he's doing that.
But what if, okay, you know, the whole argument, if I save one person, it makes this change. But what if you already sent 10,000 people to jail?
Yeah.
Or you sent a percentage of those to the graveyard because they were listening to your music. Is one person really enough?
But that's not a thing. That's not a thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think so either, but I think, you know, when we talk about the arguments that people are going to have.
No, for sure.
Go ahead, Lone.
Well, I mean, I mean, I know we're kind of being hypothetical and everything about this. I mean, first off, good for him if that's, you know, if that's good for him.
We all,
you know
I think we all in agreement on that. It's
good for him if it's good for him. Everything else, as far as like, I think we're giving him too much credit for his influence. I think you can influence individuals, but when we talk about is he going to influence people to go out and commit crime, I don't put that on individuals. I put that on society.
Oh, I put that on people personally, but there can be a battery put in their back to help assist in it.
But at the end
I've never believed that.
I don't know. I do.
I do. I believe
it. I grew up in an environment where I could have went either way.
No,
you know what I'm saying? But I decided not to do that. But there was other people that did decide to go down those particular paths because they were already in a situation to where they were participating in such things. And this may have been essentially the theme music to help them pursue a lot of other shit too.
Sure.
Excuse my language, but
I get that. I get that. But what I'm saying is even with what you're saying there, you're saying it's the battery in the back. It's not like it's not the entire embodiment of the thing that's going to push it out there, right? So when we talk about like, you know, do I look at, you know, sure, he can make less violent music, less stuff that is less. Is he going to have some sort of impact either way he goes? Yes, because he's a big artist and
that's his reach is what I'm talking about.
But still, no, is my answer is no. Like, you know, like sure. But I'm going to have an impact with just what I say right now to some random person too, you know,
true.
But it's not the same impact as what society does. And so, and when we compare those two things, it's like, we're talking like minuscule in comparison to like the situations that people are put into to where there's even necessary to have a back to put a battery into. You know what I mean? So
because there's if we have an educational system that actually is trying to do its best by even our most impoverished children, there's nowhere to even put the battery. If we have a situation where, you know, people can eat or they're not going to bed hungry or they're not influenced by the cartoonist materialism that is pushed on us by a capitalist society, then there's no battery to put it in anybody's back.
That's true. But in the same token, though, that's true. But in the same token, society set people up and these individuals don't care. So if I'm being raised by people that don't care, naturally I don't care either. I mean, of course the root problem is society, but at the end of it's a trickle-down effect. It's a butterfly effect. So it starts up there, of course. That's the root of the problem. But then when it falls down to a bunch of people that just don't care, and then I don't care because my parents don't care about me, and then I have theme music too. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that this is making them do that. They were going to do it regardless. But like I said, this is just the energy. Like people might take a drug or something, not have anything to do with music, and the drug helps influence them to go through what they're going to do because it gave them that extra courage, so to speak, or that extra I don't care moment.
I've never subscribed to rap being the 100% quote unquote reason for.
No, it's not even just rap.
I'm talking about we talking about music. Forget rap. I'm talking about just music in general as it relates to NBA YoungBoy. I'd be foolish to say I'm going to put that all on him based off his music for all of this bad stuff that's going on. I don't buy that. But in the same token, I also do believe that there is a small portion, if it's small as it relates to society, where the music can be an influence that helps
it absolutely is
go that direction. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying on a pie chart it might be smaller, Lone, is what I'm saying. But to just say that it doesn't exist, I don't agree with that.
My argument is that it is so minuscule as part of an impact as opposed to what society actually puts out there. And I don't even mean from like an individual. I kind of do. Like individuals can only do so much.
Right.
So my argument to that would be, well, if NBA YoungBoy had straight positive music, if the society is still the same, the people that are in those same situations that are going to be influenced by NBA YoungBoy, they are still going to be influenced by other artists or other things. That,
because they're going to find what they want to be influenced by.
But also, it's also a situation to where, you know, these people are also going to be hungry and they're going to find a way to eat regardless. And if knocking somebody in the head or selling dope is going to keep them from going to bed hungry, that has nothing to do with music. It's about how society is rich. Everybody talks about how America is the greatest country in the world, and like we have enough money to do anything. We have enough money to do anything, and we still won't do anything about people being unhoused, about people being underfed or not fed at all. We won't do anything about those problems. That's the issue to me, not these, you know, because, okay, here's something that is brought up every like 6 months by somebody who's extra woke online. It's like there was a secret meeting between like the private prison industrial complex.
I don't know. That's really not.
But the thing is, this is the wild thing. It was like, well, because it was all to trap black youth and get them to go into the prisons. It's like, who buys all the rap music? Who buys the posters, the T-shirts, and does who are the largest consumers of this actual music?
That's true, but they're not in that environment.
Exactly. So if you take the music away, they're not going to prison. And there are kids who are stuck in those circumstances who are going to prison because they're pushed to a level of desperation because of a lack of resources.
That's true, but in the same token, the people that aren't influenced by it, who aren't in those environments, don't have to be influenced by it because they can't relate like that. They're listening to it because it's essentially like watching a movie. They want to know about what's going on where you're from and why that happens to you and why this is your soundtrack. And I like it too because it sounds good to me, but I don't live this.
That's a good point.
You actually live this, and you have to see the correlation as far as influence is concerned, because somebody that may be on the fence about doing something, essentially, and let's say you're listening to NBA YoungBoy and not Kendrick. You know what I'm saying? Somebody that's telling you a story about why not to do it versus somebody telling you a story about this is why you should do it because you need to get to the bag. You got to do this. You got to provide for your family. So this is the only way to do it.
Right.
Versus somebody giving you an example of this is why you shouldn't do it and figure out another way to get to the bag. Yeah. It's all influence at the end of the day. It's just the level of influence that's, you know what I'm saying, sponged up by whoever's listening to it, I guess.
And I think the thing that we're hitting on is because we're agreeing, but I understand what you're saying, Lone, as it relates to, I'm looking at it in my mind, I'm looking at it like a pie chart, right? You said minuscule.
Well,
right?
I look at it as micro and macro.
Okay.
So there's the bigger picture, right? And then there's the smaller portions that go into it. Oops, excuse me. But even if we're talking about from a pie chart standpoint, I think when we talk about influence specifically, it's, I don't know. I'll let you continue.
No, you're fine. It's just I think we're all sitting on the same thing. It's just I understand what Terry's saying from an influence standpoint as it relates to the circumstance on top of throwing the music on top of the circumstances. I get what he's saying when he's saying that, but I also understand what you mean because the bigger picture is the community, how it's set up, the conditions, all that type of stuff. So I get that. Like I think we're all in the same area. It's just different sides.
I mean, this is.
But I totally get what you're saying. I understand.
Yeah, this is stuff that I talk about think about pretty regularly in general, and you know, it's, you know, I think in our society in general, we tend to hyper focus on the individual. It's. I mean, I'm not really trolling here, but it really is it really is a capitalist type of idea.
Yeah.
To hyper individualize, to think, oh man, all we have to do is just. You know, that's why we're super.
But that's the thing. That's not all you have to do to correct it. You know, there's many pieces to that puzzle, and that's a small piece. You know, you're putting together a big picture.
Right.
You have this small piece that's still a piece of the puzzle that completes the whole, you know what I'm saying, picture for this specific person or community or people, so to speak. But at the end of the day, the bigger piece, like you said, is capitalism and society and all of those things. But it's all a part of the same puzzle.
There's so many conversations that can be had about, and I want to make sure we're going to bring back our
Keep
list, but I don't want to lose my train of thought. But there's so many levels of conversation that can be had to what you're talking about, Lone, from a community standpoint, that sometimes when you talk about individualizing, I agree with you, because it's easier to go that route than to address the root cause in the community level of things. We don't hear that as often. It's like with hip hop is been looked at as a crutch to me. It's like, we'll just throw it on hip hop. Everything that happens and you see these young kids out here wilding out, we're just going to throw it on hip hop. They just listen to hip hop. You can't do that. That's unfair. To your point, because there's so much more. That's lazy. Blaming everything on hip hop is lazy. 100%.
But I don't even necessarily think it's lazy. I think it's just indoctrination. I think that too. I think we're all just predisposed in a way to kind of look at, like, America has done this to look at black rappers in general, specifically what we're talking about, especially if they are violent music, to say, oh man, this is the problem with America. But in the same sense,
they pretty much want you to fault yourself at the end of the day.
But in the same sense, those same people that are saying that are intentionally involved in propagating or propagandizing
and profiting,
and of course, but propagandizing the system that goes against that, what would actually fix it, which is like improving material conditions around, to where this music is a product of what is going on. It's not the other way around.
The same people that you're talking about, to your point, are actually helping generate more of the music.
Which goes to Jay Moore's point, right? Which was exactly what he was talking about, and what Terry was saying about sometimes the people that are even listening to this music, they just like the stories because it's not what they're used to.
He said
so the influence that, like, if NBA YoungBoy influences them, he might influence somebody in some weird way. But I feel like
we've seen Malibu's Most Wanted.
No, for sure.
Tough.
I'm just saying.
Tough.
And I don't think you can remove the fact that it does affect individuals. There is influence there, and of course, we would all want everything to be positive and all that other stuff. But I feel like bringing that up at all is inherently distracting completely to bigger point, and it gives a
credibility.
It gives a credibility that, or not even, well, it does, but it's like, it makes it seem like there's another conversation to be had. When even though it's a part of it, the conversation is around make the situation better. It's not about focus on the individual. So
we're focusing on this art. Like, the art is a background conversation to the actual societal problems that no one seems to want to stop. Like, look, I know you guys are old enough to remember C. Dolores Tucker.
Oh yeah.
And Reverend Calvin Butts. They both gone on to be with the ancestors. So God bless them, because you know what, they meant well. But the thing is, in their minds, if I get on TV and talk bad enough about these youngsters, tell them to pull their pants up and stop calling women B's and H's, I'm trying to censor myself here.
Good job. Good job.
All the problems are going to go away, and all of a sudden we're going to be living in Wakanda. And it's like, no, because you're on TV with the same politicians who, filled the community with drugs and guns and underfunded our schools and drew property lines and were there for redlining. Let's solve.
He wasn't against the rap, and he wasn't against the rapper.
But he was those problems. Thugs. Solve those problems. Don't come to me talking about who's a thug and somebody needs to pull their pants up when our school system is still funded by the tax base of the people who live in the neighborhood, and you took all the resources away for those people to be able to buy homes.
Well, that's what happens.
Tax base.
That's what happens when people move out of the hood and want to act all uppity and act like that they weren't a part of that and don't know what the actual problem is. But again, it still is influential to certain people.
But that's even still part of the indoctrination even further, because people, and this isn't even necessarily just a black thing. Poor people feel the same way. When poor people move out of certain situations and they get a little bit of money and then they get into maybe a different neighborhood,
they want to start acting brand new.
Exactly. So it's and again, it goes right back to the same type of thing.
Yeah.
But
I've had that conversation with my father and like some of the people who are of his generation, who they were that first generation to really be able to go to college, find a way into corporate America. And, they were sold as like, okay, now you can live wherever you want.
Right.
And the thing is, like, what happened is they didn't realize, they thought, okay, we're going to have a better life for our children. And it wasn't about moving away from people that look like them. It was just like, okay, well, we can afford to do this, so let's do this.
Yeah.
And what happened is, when you deindustrialized the United States of America, what you did is like, it was a double whammy at the same time, because those blue collar workers who could still create, a certain level of comfort and wealth for their family. Maybe they couldn't move them to the suburbs or out to the newer communities, but they were still working people. So the people who could afford to leave, they left. And then the people who would still be the tax base of said communities, those blue collar jobs were taken away or sent overseas or just completely
the family was
disappeared.
broken up.
And then you drop the crack bomb. I think about, when going back to the neighborhood where my dad grew up, and we would go see my grandmother. And, I remember me and my sister would walk around the neighborhood, we'd spend weekends or weeks there. And I just remember it was, it wasn't the community that we were being raised in, and it was all black folks, but it was still a place where you'd see kids playing, you see people riding their bikes, and it was all, and then in maybe like a year, when crack, like I said, I called a crack bomb because that's what it was. It was like, okay, they keep stealing my aunt's car from in front of the house. My grandmother has to put bars on the windows. And all that was deliberately done. I believe if I'm a conspiracy person on anything, it is about the proliferation of drugs in the black community in the 1980s. I believe that's what happened.
Yeah.
Reaganomics.
That's exactly what
happened.
Exactly what happened.
Even before that happened,
they
there
put
was
those drugs
and
in the black
in the
community deliberately, and you can't tell me any different.
They absolutely did. But even before that, there was still issues and problems in the neighborhoods based on, what are we still talking about today? Policing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So Black Panthers were pretty much made, gangs were made essentially to help police their own neighborhoods or whatnot.
Communities. Yep.
And essentially formed into something else later down the line once crack hit, because that was a form of income because they didn't have jobs.
Right.
Yep. All right, man. I think we got it.
The circle of life.
Let's end it there.
In a messed
Great
up way,
conversation.
yes, it's very much as a circle.